This particular group has a chance to be very, very special and historic.
Still, somehow that hate and that passion for this rivalry still
The
exists.
same schedule that they depicted us to be the last in the freaking conference is the same schedule that we're 8-4 on.
Not quite, my friend. Give me the Mountaineers, baby.
Neil has done exactly what he said he was going to do when the university entrusted him in this position. Trust the climb, give me a few years, let me get my culture in here, let me build the way I'm going to build.
Welcome back in. It is another episode of the Walkthrough Game Day Show presented by West Virginia on SI. I'm Schuyler Callihan. That is my co-host, West Virginia legendary running back, Eugene Napoleon. It's the Coal Rush. It's the all-black uniforms under the lights at 8 o'clock against Iowa State. It's going to be a ton of fun, an atmosphere that has never been seen at Mountaineer Field in Morgantown. It's going to be a blast. We'll dive into the details of that and of the game here in a little bit. But first, we're going to talk about Oklahoma State and the win that the Mountaineers had out in Stillwater, 38-14. We'll talk some hot coach meters or hot seat meters, if you will, and then we'll also get into players to watch and all that stuff. So let's go and start with last weekend, Gene. 38-14. As we talked in the pregame or the postgame show, rather, that it was a little unexpected. I think even the most optimistic. Now, maybe even for you, Gene, I know you're optimistic as heck. You like to pick the Mountaineers every week, but I think even the most optimistic West Virginia fan probably thought, go to Stillwater, get a win, 24-21 or 28-24, and you feel pretty good. 38-14. 38-14. I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card for Saturday. That was a straight-up butt whipping. Yeah, put your hand down. You didn't have that. I'll have to go back because you put a score in last week. If mine serves me correctly, I think you actually put in a score last week. So I'll have to go back and check that.
Yeah, go check that. Blowout. All
So
jokes aside, it's what you and I spoke about earlier during the preview show, prior to the Oklahoma State game.
yep.
If everybody did what they were supposed to have done, the offense played well, the defense played well, you're solid on special teams, we would win that game handedly. The thing that I don't think anybody around college football expected, they didn't expect West Virginia to go into Stillwater and play as well as they did in all three phases.
And as quickly, too. I mean, they got up to a 17-0 lead like this. Like
that. That's the first. Think about it this way. That's the first time that's happened ever where you're consistent in all three phases of the game. Think about that. That's probably the most complete game I've seen under Neil Brown probably ever. I mean, it was complete domination from start to finish. And that's a good thing. You know why? It's showing the growth. It's showing the growth, for Coach Brown as a coach, but it's also showing the growth of the players trusting in what he's actually coaching them up to do. That has a lot to do with it, too. We didn't have that many MAs.
No.
And when you don't have a lot of MAs on the road like that, you should win games like that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a tough environment to play in. We've talked about it many times before. Boone Pickens, that's the crowd's right on top of you. They were going into that game, their backs are against the wall. They're 0-2 in league play. It's something that doesn't happen there very often. What happens even less often is them losing 3 straight to open Big 12 play. And you were able to go in there with their backs against the wall, just hunting for blood. And you went in there and took care of business right from the jump and quieted that crowd and got the crowd out of it very early. That was such a sound game in all three phases, like you said. A tip of the hat to Neil Brown, but also, as I mentioned in the post game, a little love here for Jordan Leslie too. He's caught a lot of crap through the first month of the season, and in a lot of ways, deservedly so. Like the defense had played really bad, and they didn't have answers. In this game, I don't care what Ollie Gordon's numbers were coming into the game. You still have to go out there and stop him. At any single moment, he can snap through it and be the guy that he was a year ago when he won the Doak Walker and the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year award. You hold him to 50 yards on 13 carries. You also hold Alan Bowman to 116 yards, 2 picks. This was one of the best passing offenses in the league. Despite there being ups and downs in their passing each week, they were still at the top. And for you to go in there and get into a situation where the quarterback's playing so bad you have to yank him, I mean that was a stunner. Hats off to Jordan Leslie, those corners, those safeties for stepping up and figuring some things out during the bye week.
Balled out, completely balled out. Very happy for him. Listen, you give credit what credit's due. And the bottom line is this: when you're paying these coordinators, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, whatever the case may be, you're paying them all this money. You expect those type of results. I really do. I expect
Yeah.
that. Now, I'm not saying that you go in and you're going to blow people out every week, but what I am saying, look at what happens when you're consistent again in all three phases of the game. Look at what happens when you're focused and you don't have the mental breakdown and the MAs that prevent you from doing exactly what they did in Stillwater. That was
Yeah.
as complete of a game, like I said, that I've seen in forever from a Coach Brown, coach team here in Morgantown. And I'm so glad it happened the way it happened. It needed to happen that way to send a message to put the rest of college football on notice, and more importantly, to put the Big 12 on notice.
Yeah.
Needed that kind of win, that dominating win. You needed that.
Yeah, sitting at 2-0 in Big 12 play now. And the other thing that I want to mention with Jordan Leslie too, he moved up to the box for the Kansas game. The first couple of games he was still on the field. Since he moved up there, they've been much better against the pass. I know Kansas is a run first team, that's their bread and butter, but they still,
Right.
again, you have to go out and defend it. They did that. They did it again last week against Oklahoma State. I think that's going to be an interesting part of this. Could him just simply moving up to the box fix a lot of the issues that West Virginia was having earlier in the year because maybe he just wasn't putting guys in the right position? Now he's got this 50,000-foot view. He sees everything. He's got
Right.
all these papers in front of him that he could look at instead of trying to flip through them all on the sidelines, coach guys on the sidelines, go through all the emotions. It's a much more calm area that he's in. I think it makes sense. And I think that's one of the big reasons why they're going to have more success moving forward. Jaheim White, 158 yards. You got him going again, looking like the Jaheim White that we saw as a true freshman. That was huge. But really, Gene, the other part that I wanted to talk about here very quickly was there's a lot of next man ups in this game, right? Garrett Green goes down after the 39-yard run. Nico Marchiol comes right in. 3 plays later, boom, touchdown to Traylon Ray. Then the next drive they go down, he leads another touchdown drive. It was on the ground, but still, he led them down the field. Later in the game, Brandon Yates, the center, he goes down. Landon Livingston comes in. Guess what happens? Touchdown drive. Israel Boyce comes in the second half. True freshman safety, his first extended playing time. He comes in, has one mistake, but outside of that, played really well. Speak to what that means when you can have guys that can come in right there and be able to not have that production drop off like you had before.
I'm going to be honest with you. What it shows you is the confidence that these players have and they're being developed properly. That's what it shows you, honestly. Especially at this level, people don't really understand how difficult it is to come in and you're not the starter. But the key is, from what I've seen, these young guys come in there and they're playing as if they're the starters, which means they're preparing like they're the starters.
Yeah.
So they're ready to go because you never know. You're one injury away from actually getting on the field. And what I saw in Stillwater was confidence. Everyone who came in, they played as if they were in the starting lineup from the start. There was not one piece of a drop-off in ability at any position. And that's really what you want. So kudos to Neil Brown, to the staff for having these young people prepared, these young men ready to go. And you got a chance to see it in real action in a real tough environment in Stillwater. Like you said, Boone Pickens Stadium is hard to play in, man. So
It is.
It's a hostile environment. So to see that, it gives me, I'm really gleeful to know that our young guys are ready to go. And it doesn't matter who's in there. You're going to get the same level of production and consistency. And that's really what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge win for West Virginia to move to 2-0 in Big 12 play, have a chance to go to 3-0 and have a really big statement win this weekend. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the hottest seats in college football right now. As we were joking before we started recording, we were going over kind of the layout of the show today, and this is the first time, Gene, that we haven't had to find a way to do this or plan a way to get Neil Brown in there, because we always try to bring this into a West Virginia centered thing. But
Right.
right now, there's no hot seat talk of Neil Brown. A couple weeks ago after the loss to Pitt, absolutely. But and
Right.
that may change here and again in a few weeks. But as of right now, that's not the case. So let's go ahead and start with Florida State's Mike Norvell. Last year, they look like they were on course for winning the national championship. They lose Jordan Travis to an injury. Obviously, they fall apart in the ACC title. Or they ended up winning the game, but they didn't look as efficient doing so. They get left out of the college football playoff. It just seems like ever since they've not been able to rebound. They're sitting here at 1-5. I don't know what to expect. I feel like at some point they're going to turn the boat here, but they don't have a very easy schedule. I mean, they've got Duke, who's playing better than people thought. Miami's up there. North Carolina is always going to be a challenge. Notre Dame on the schedule. It's not the easiest of things. So I'm gonna go warm on the hot seat for Mike Norvell. The only reason I say that, they don't really care to be buying him out right now. If you go and look at his contract, it is a massive buyout, and I don't think that you can just constantly have this rotating door of coaches down there at Florida State. They've got to kind of sit on this for at least a little bit. Bring him
Yeah.
back in 25, see what happens. If not, get rid of him then.
No, I agree 100%. First off, because of the success he had last year, that's going to buy him at
Oh
least.
yeah,
It's going to buy
absolutely.
him. You know what I mean? So no, I'm with you on that. I would say warm. Plus I like him as a coach. I think he's a heck of a football coach. I just think it happens to all of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
This is a down year. I don't think it's indicative of his ability to coach. It's just one of them years. Now, if it happens again next year and the program that Florida State has been, the tradition, then I think he'll be looking for another job. Yeah.
absolutely. I agree. Let's move to Florida. Basically, staying in that state there, and a coach that's been on the hot seat seemingly for a long time now, and Billy Napier. And it kind of feels like he's a dead man walking right now. I know they're 3-2, but they have the toughest schedule in college football, and it's not going to get any easier. They got Tennessee this week. Then they have Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. That is a bunch of teams with numbers next to their name. I don't see how he gets out of this. And honestly, I think it's a little unfair. You have the toughest schedule in college football. I still think you need to give him a little bit of time, afford him a little patience to get this thing moving. They too are a program that just likes to recycle coaches. You got to stick on one for a while, but just gauging the temperature in the room, I think it's as hot as it gets. I think it's scorching right now for Billy Napier.
Listen, I agree. No, it is scorching, and if you can go past scorching, that's what it is.
We
I
broke the
mean,
meter.
you broke the meter. Because sometimes you become because of the success of the program. Any coach that goes in and they expect to compete for a
Immediately.
conference championship and a national championship immediately because of the overall success of that program. So it is unfortunate, but that's what it is. When you sign to coach at a program like that, you know what time it is. You have to win consistently right away. And I'm not talking about 8 games. You have to win at least 9 games to keep people somewhat happy. And you better be in that 10 to 11 game threshold if you really want to put a full smile on the faces of the fans and whatever. So now, his definitely scorching hot to the third power. Yeah, yeah,
That meter has been shattered. Sorry, Billy, but I feel like you're going to
yeah.
be looking for a new job this offseason.
Yes.
Dave Aranda, Baylor head coach. I feel for Dave because I think he's one of the best defensive minds in all of college football. And I feel like he's just in a bad situation with Baylor because of the lack of resources that they've had in terms of the NIL and the transfer portal stuff.
Right.
To me, I'd ride this thing out as long as I possibly could. if you look at West Virginia and how patient they've been with Neil Brown, that's how patient Baylor needs to be with Dave Aranda, in my opinion. He's a very good coach. He's a good program builder. He won them the Big 12 championship. I think it was in year two. I,
Yeah.
the problem is, I don't know that Baylor's going to sit around and go for, if they go 4-8, are they going to keep him again? I don't think so. So I'm going to go hot. If there was a meter position here between warm and hot, I'd say it's probably that, but I'll lean towards hot right now. Maybe he can coach his way down.
Um, Ironically enough, I would probably agree with you because he's a good coach. Let's be clear. He runs a good program. He's a good coach. Um, I think from a character standpoint, his players buy into what he's saying, and you can tell that because I don't read too many crazy things with his players off the field, which is very important with the culture of college football is the way it is right now. So I agree with you on that. Here's what I hope don't happen. Everybody's dealing with NIL, the transfer portal. Everybody's right. Everybody's dealing with
Yeah.
that. It would be unfair if Baylor says we're going to fire you because of that. Okay, because everybody's dealing with it. So on the other side of it, if you keep him one more year because of his ability to recruit and attract really good players, and they get a little bit better in their NIL, they get a little bit better in the scouting in the area of transfer portal athletes. Who knows? Because he's such a defensive mind and he's such a good X's and O's guy, Baylor can turn around and be the Baylor that they were in his second year when he first got there. He has the ability to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I hope they give him one more year because I think he personally deserves it. And then you go from there. Give him one more year and see what happens. If it doesn't turn around, then I think you have license to go ahead and fire him, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a tough situation. Like I said, I think you give him a little bit of runway there, but it's hard to tell nowadays. People are getting very impatient. USC, Lincoln Riley, they're sitting at 3-2, and they have not really done anything different under Lincoln Riley than they did under Clay Helton or really the guys before that. They are 22-10 in the first 2 years and some change here under Lincoln Riley. They went 11-3, 8-5, 3-2. Fortunately for Lincoln, it looks as if things will lighten up here on the schedule for them and they can pick up a bunch of wins. But I don't know what that's going to look like. You're paying him a ton of money. And I saw this tweet the other day that had a picture of him and Clay Helton that had their stats, their records, what they each were getting paid. They were paying Clay Helton hardly anything. Like I'm talking like Neil Brown type money. And that's not offense to Neil Brown. I'm just saying like USC's used to being able to fork it up and pay a bunch of money. They weren't
Right.
paying him hardly anything. And they're getting the same production almost out of Lincoln Riley, and they're giving him a huge bag. I don't know if that's going to stick around for very long. I think right now it's lukewarm, but that's something that could easily kick up into that third or fourth spot here on our meter if things start to get a little stale out there.
I think I'm gonna move that to warm for me
Okay.
because 100% right. The bottom line is, again, you're talking about the tradition of a program that is used to winning, and they're not going to for them to be mediocre. That's not what you're paying this man for. You
Yeah.
paid for the name. That's what you paid for. You got the name, Lincoln Riley. Now he has to produce at a level to where they're at least fighting for a conference championship. Okay. Where he is right now, that's not what they're paying for. So I'm going to say warm. And a matter of fact, I'll go as far as to say, for the sake of argument, if they're not in the college playoff conversation, that's going to be a problem because the expectations is exactly that. With 12 teams getting in and you're not part of that conversation, nah. And we're paying you north of what, $100 and something million? A 10-year deal, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Yeah,
Massive.
nah, buddy. Nope. You may have to be packing.
So
They gotta go, put it this way, they got to go at least 9-3.
which leaves them very little wiggle room with already 2 losses. So
Already 2 losses. So no, I don't. So no, and I like him. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a heck of a football coach. I really do. But I'm talking about X's and O's matching dollars and cents.
You got to get
You
your
got to make it.
ROI. That's the thing, the nature of this business. And the thing for him is he just hasn't been able to win the big game. Even going back to his time at Oklahoma, he'd win the Big 12 conference every year. They get into the playoff or a big time bowl game, and they just could not win those games. That's been a big thing for him. Defense has never been good under him, regardless of coordinator. That's an issue, especially in the Big Ten. You're not in the Pac-12 anymore. We can get away with it. But Big Ten, it's big boy football out there. So we'll see what happens there. So from USC to UNC, I feel for Mac Brown, man. Like he's getting up there. He's been a very good football coach for several years, decades. He was a good coach at North Carolina, and then he went and did some great things, winning a national title at Texas. Now back at Carolina, he kind of got that program, re-energized, but it just feels like this thing's starting to slip away. And from my sources, okay, I actually have a friend that I used to work with that was one of the spotters in the press box at North Carolina. And he told me from the beginning that when they hired Mac Brown, the plan was to have his successor on staff. Well, I don't know if that's happened. They've kind of gone through a couple of different O&D coordinators there, so don't know if that's the case. But it just doesn't feel like there's a good vibe going on right now with Carolina. They kind of underachieved with Drake May, and now they lose 70-50 a few weeks ago to James Madison. They lost to their rival in Duke. They lost to Pitt last week. They're 3-3. It's an okay schedule the rest of the way, but 6 or 7 wins just doesn't feel right, even though they lost their starting quarterback in week one. I don't know. It's a weird situation because I think the love and the respect that they have for Mac is a lot. So I don't know if they'd ever get to the point of firing him. It'd be more like, "Hey Mac, go get you onto the golf course again. Go hang out and be with your wife and enjoy retirement." So that's kind of what I feel about that. So I'll put it at warm, mainly because I think this is going to be more of a his decision to step away than it is them saying, "Hey, you're done."
I'm gonna say scorching hot.
Oh, okay, okay,
And the reason why I say that, two things can be true at the same time. In
yeah,
other words, like you said, it can be that, and that conversation may be going on right now. Who knows? Behind closed
yeah, it
doors.
very well could be, yeah,
Hey, listen, we love you, we respect you. What you've done for the culture of college sports has been massive over your career. We would never publicly fire you, but here's the caveat: finish the year out, resign, or retire at the however you want to term it on paper, and we'll put out a nice, beautiful press release with flowers and everything on it. And we're going to go in a different direction. Now we're asking you to do that, right? If you don't, okay, then we're going then we're going to have to fire you. I think that's the conversation because North Carolina has been good for such a long time. They've been very consistent for such a long time. You can't take a step backward right now. You can't. Not where the landscape of college football is right now. You can't.
yeah.
North Carolina cannot fall dormant to just being regulated as a basketball school anymore. They don't want to go back to that. It is what it is. So that's, I think, the position. And trust me, I have a lot of respect for Coach Brown. He's a hell of a coach, man. He's a great person. But we're not talking about, this is just football we're talking about. He's a great man. But I think his time has come
Yeah,
in the sport.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately, I think it's time for him to go out there and get them golf clubs and turn the hat sideways. You know what I mean? He's a great
North,
dude. That's what I think. For me, I think that's I think North Carolina. Don't be surprised at the very end of the season if it comes out that he either retired or decided to step away and resign. I really
yep.
believe that.
Trust me, North Carolina, and I'm saying this from experience, has some very beautiful golf courses. Now, it may not be the case whenever I get done because I leave a whole bunch of divots in the ground and I toss grass everywhere. But I think he would much rather feel a much stress-free life not leading that program anymore. Unfortunately, because he is a really good coach, and I think he's done a lot of good things there. But everything has its expiration date, and I think it's time for him to move on to that next chapter of his life, whatever that may be. So, all right, Gene, let's go ahead and we'll ask our trivia question before we head to break here and get into that preview of Iowa State. This week's trivia question is: West Virginia has started 3-0 in Big 12 play twice. They came into the year in 2012. What years did those two 3-0 starts take place? Obviously, we're asking this because if Mountaineers win this week, this will be the third time they moved to 3-0. So, were the 2 years 2012 and 2016, 2016 and 2018, or 2012, 2018? A lot of the same things there, but we mixed it up, tried to make it interesting. We'll let you think about it, and we'll have a answer for you on the other side of the break. In the meantime, enjoy this week's highlights of the College Football 25 simulation between West Virginia and Iowa State.
From Steve Slayton to Pat White to Pat McAfee, they love their Mountaineers in Morgantown. And in a place known for yan dogs and pepperoni rolls, probably some liquid refreshments, the Mountaineer faithful ready to go here in Morgantown. He'll try to pick it up on the ground. And into the end zone. He almost punched it in for 6. They'll get him down at the 1-yard line.
They can keep that up.
With the run on 1st and goal. Into the end zone he goes. Touchdown, Mountaineers! Back to pass, it's Beck. Looking to the big tight end. Got him downfield. From the gun, wants to pass. Fires to the wideout. Oh, what a grab by the defense. Looking for more room.
Covering corner, fewer are lucky if you have 2. They've got 3 DBs, 3 corners that can play at the same.
Now on the option. He'll pitch it. Across the 25, he's got room. Touchdown, Mountaineers. And once he got loose, it was all over.
To not just cover, but tackle backs in the open field.
And boy, is he close to that 1st down. So now on comes the field goal unit. Right down the boulevard, it's good. And the Mountaineers trying to get a touchdown on 1st and goal. Looking to scramble. Touchdown, West Virginia! And they add 6 more to the board with that trip to the house. Looking to the end zone on 3rd and goal. Fires to the end zone. And he's got it. Touchdown, Iowa State. It's good. He could have hit a string right in the middle of the uprights there. Now, he'll try to throw and pick up the 1st down. Looking for the end zone. With the game in hand, the offense choosing to just have the quarterback take a knee.
And we are back here on the Walkthrough Game Day Show. That's Eugene Napoleon. I'm Schuyler Callihan. That was awesome that we were able to finally get the simulation back into our commercial spot there. West Virginia winning 24-10. Hopefully that's a good thing of sign, or a sign of good things to come for this weekend. The simulator is 3-2 in its predictions this year, so we'll see if they can improve upon that this week as hopefully West Virginia gets a win too. So our trivia question that we asked before the break was: West Virginia started 3-0 in Big 12 play twice. What years did those take place? Was it A, 2012 and 16, B, 2016 and 18, or C, 2012 and 2018? Gene, what is your answer, good sir?
B as in boy.
And
2016, 2018.
And you, my friend, are correct.
Thank you.
Ding, ding. I thought I was going to trip you up there because there was a lot of 2012 and 16, 16, 18, 12, and 18. I thought I was going to trip you up, but no, you got it right. 2016 and 18, obviously 16 with Schuyler Howard that year. They go 10-3, and then 2018 with Will Greer and company. So that is correct. So, all right. Time to get into this game, starting with our players to watch. And of course, we can't leave Rocco backed out of this, right? I mean, the son of former Mountaineer Anthony Beck comes into town. He didn't really get recruited all that hard by West Virginia. He did come to a recruiting camp and such, but got to wonder how he feels about that. And if there's too much pressure on him, or if he takes this and runs with it and says, hey, you should have recruited me harder. But Rocco, 1,173 yards passing, 9 touchdowns to 3 picks, 65.9% completion percentage. On the defensive side, for the Cyclones, it's defensive back Malik Verdon, 32 tackles, a couple of pass breakups, an interception, and a forced fumble. And for the Mountaineers, I went with C.J. Donaldson in the backfield at 71 carries, 5 touchdowns, over 360 yards. And for the second straight week, I usually try and make sure we change these up, but I wanted to make sure we emphasize the importance of stopping the run game in this one. So Josiah Trotter for the second straight week is our Mountaineer defensive player to watch. Gene, let's go ahead and start with the offensive side here for Iowa State, West Virginia's defense, specifically talking about Rocco Becht here.
Yeah.
Before we dive into the stuff that he does on the field, if you're in this type of situation, right? Your dad went to the school that you're going to play at. You probably grew up thinking, hey, I might get an opportunity to play there. It'd be really cool to follow my dad's footsteps. And it just didn't really work out. So if you're Rocco Becht, are your emotions going to be putting you into the point where, and I get this is probably person to person, it might be a little bit different. Well, are you going to feel that pressure and try and do too much and do things out of the norm to try and prove yourself? Do you feel like that's what happens with Rocco? Or do you think he reverses that and uses that to his advantage and say, hey, I'm going to go out there, stay within myself, and have myself a big game against a team that probably should have offered me?
He seems to be the type, he seems to be calm. I've watched him play. I don't think he's going to get too outside of himself, but I do think he's going to come in and play with a chip on his shoulder, and to be
As he should.
honest, as he should. But I can tell you this: if he comes in and plays with a calmness and a steely-eyed, focused approach to this game, it could be interesting because that means everything will slow down in front of him. The game will be a little bit slower, which means he'll be paying attention to detail a little bit more. And he could make it quite interesting on our defense. Now, know what you do? You watch him in pregame. You watch his warm-ups. If he's throwing the ball all over the place, he's a little bit erratic, then you kind of know that he's on edge and he's going to have to calm himself down to get into the flow and the rhythm of the game. I always do that. I love to go out and watch how certain players warm up.
Yeah.
But listen, I would probably think he will come in with his hair on fire, ready to prove a point. Yeah, ready to prove a point. I would think that would be my natural gut reaction. But we will see.
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup because when I look at Iowa State on offense, I almost see West Virginia. They like to use their tight ends. They're very physical in the run game. Their offensive line is really good. They've got a dual threat quarterback. Garrett's obviously probably a little bit more dangerous with his legs than Rocco, but Rocco can still use his feet when needed. And then in the backfield, it's again a spitting image in some ways. I know they run their offense a little differently, but Jalen Jackson, he's like your Jaheim White. He's small, he's tiny. You got to try and figure out where he is hiding behind the offensive line. He's their lead back right now, even though they're running 3 different guys back there, 295 yards, a couple touchdowns, averaging 6 yards a carry. He's that kind of Jaheim White-esque player. And then they have 2 other guys, Abu Sama and Carson Hansen, who are more bigger physical backs, kind of your C.J. Donaldson of sorts. So, again, to me, stopping Ollie Gordon was the number one key last week, and it's going to be the same key this week against this running back group of Samad Jackson and Hansen. Josiah Trotter, Trey Lathan, Reed Carrico, Ben Cutter, those linebackers, the edge guys, and Tyron Bradley, Ty French, they have to set the tone and make Rocco Becht spin this football. I truly believe that if that is the game plan and you go in and execute it, you're going to be in a really good shape, pretty much to what you were last week. Because what we've seen from this defense, Gene, is they can get after the passer. They've been
Yeah.
able to get quarterback pressures. They've been able to get sacks. Oklahoma State only gave up 1 sack all year going into that game. They gave up 2 last week. Iowa
Mhm.
State's kind of in the same situation. They haven't give up a whole lot of sacks. I feel like if you can contain that running game and force them to throw the football, you're going to get into some situations where you can bring extra blitzers and get into some better down and distance situations.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you 1,000,000%. I think the blueprint and the game plan from what happened last week in Stillwater should be the same blueprint and game plan as what's going to happen, here. I personally believe that our defense clicked and figured it out.
Yeah.
They clicked and figured it out. Yeah. It's almost like,
Hopefully, at least.
no, I really believe that. It's almost like dealing with a bully. They went into Stillwater and the Cowboys was the bully. And they finally figured out if I punch him in the face hard enough, he's going to fall down. Okay, so they figured it out. I really believe our defense will step up. They will do what they need to do to minimize the big plays, and then get them off the field and let our offense do what it needs to do. I really believe that. If we're consistent and we're purposeful in the first and second down, and keep it to where it's not a manageable third down for them. It's third and medium to third and long. Oh, man, I would love to be in that position because then they have to throw the football.
Yep.
I really believe we can do that. So I'm looking. It's going to be a really good matchup. But I think the defense will be up for the task, honestly.
That's the thing with this running back group, is that obviously, like I said, they have 3 guys, and it's pretty fairly even distributed. Jackson's 48 carries, Samah 48 carries, Hanson 41. They're using all 3. So even when you contain the run game, they're still going to keep throwing it at you, and they feel like eventually one of them is going to pop and they're going to have a big play. But to me, you have to contain that first. I know that you can do some different things on the back end to help out, but I think you got to load the box up in this game and make it almost like a street fight of sorts, because I think both of these teams are very similar offensively, defensively. I know defensively they present it much differently, probably more unique than anybody else in this league, but they are after the same things and they want to win the game in the trenches. As far as the receivers go, Jalen Noel, he's their home run hitter, averaging 18.8 yards a catch. So when they throw it his way, they're going deep. Excuse me. And then Jaden Higgins, he's their big target, 6'4", 200+ pounds. That's really it, Gene. Like, seriously, that 24 catches, 33 receptions. The rest of the guys all have single digits, and they're not very many. So when they do throw it, it's going to one of those 2 guys. You need whoever, if it's going to be Aiden Garnes, if it's Garnett Hollis, you need one of those guys to step up and really shut down one half of the field. And then it's one guy's really pretty much where their eyes are going to be. Maybe it's to get their outlet to the tight end or the running back. But if you shut down half of that, you got to like your chances defensively. So before you switch it over to that side of the ball, I know we talked a lot about stopping the run game, but what's one thing you're looking for or one key that you feel like is very pivotal for the Mountaineer defense?
No, I think what you said is very true. I really want to put them in a position where you stop the run and you throw the football. And I really do believe that we can get to the quarterback. If that's the case, for me, the pivotal part would be make them beat me in the air. Yeah. Make them throw the football. If that's the case, I don't think, and I could be wrong, watching both their scheme versus Oklahoma State's scheme, I don't think their passing game is as explosive as what we just in Stillwater, right?
No, not at all.
Able to halt, to halt to that offense in their running game and in their passing game. So my point would be we should be able to duplicate that same exact output this game. I believe that. So I want you to throw the football. I want to force you to put the ball in the air. And I think if that's the game plan going in, that's what the optimism that you already know we want to stop the run. That's the whole piece. So for them to throw the football, we have to stop the run. If we go in with that mindset, I don't think that's going to be a problem because I think we can get to the quarterback. I really do. I think, up front we're strong enough to get to the quarterback. 2 or 3 sacks this game will be beautiful for me.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing with their offense. I think a lot of it is their numbers are somewhat inflated, and they're still only in the middle of the Big 12 in terms of passing yards, rushing yards, red zone efficiency, third down efficiency. I mean, you look at their schedule, and it's like I don't know what to really make of them. Even though they're 5-0, they're number 11 in the country. I
Right.
mean, they are a good football team. Do not get me wrong, but it's been North Dakota. I'll give them credit for Iowa. That's a very tough game that they've not had a lot of success in over the years. They went on the road and beat the Hawkeyes. But then you come back, you beat Arkansas State in a blowout, Houston, who they shut out. Houston can't score against anybody.
Right.
And then last week they took care of Baylor once they got going in the second half. And Baylor, again, as we talked about earlier in the show, we don't know if they're even going to be a team that makes a bowl game. So
Right.
they're not as tested, I think, to this point as West Virginia, who has played Penn State, who has, as we don't like to mention, but they played a undefeated Pitt team on the road. Again, they should have won. They went to Boone Pickens Stadium last week and handled business. This is another big opportunity, but it feels like they're more made for this, or maybe not made, but they're not going to blink maybe or flinch as much as Iowa State will on the road. But that's not saying that they will. But just quick thoughts on that before we switch it over.
I want to see who steps up when adversity strikes. And I think No, I think you said it right. I think West Virginia is made for this. We've been in much more tougher environments and tougher situations than they have. We played
Yeah.
against better football teams thus far than they have. So no, I want to see what happens when adversity strikes for Iowa State. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, I think we will answer the bell because we've answered the bell already. You know what I'm saying? Like, even with mistakes, we still answered the bell. So no, I think we're made for this. I really do. This is a tailor-made game and team for where we need to be in this part of the season. This game falls perfectly as to where we need to be right now.
So flipping it over to West Virginia's offense and Iowa State's defense, looking at the numbers, I mean, they are as stingy as it gets. They only allow 133 passing yards per game, rushing yards. They're actually eighth in the Big 12. So what does that mean for context? Well, West Virginia is sixth against the run defensively. So if you've been a little worrisome about West Virginia's run defense, Iowa State's kind of in that same boat. So you will be able to have opportunities in the run game. I don't know that you're going to run for 389 again, Gene. I mean, that's like a once in a season type of thing. But I do think you can run for 140 or a buck 50. And if you do, I think you're putting yourself in a really good position to win the football game. But more on their stats, they have not been good in the red zone defensively. They've allowed 6 out of 7 scores, 3 of which were touchdowns. And on third downs, they're kind of middle of the road in the Big 12 at 37.5%. And this is a very good defensive coach team. John Hickok has been there for years. They have that really crazy disguised defense where it's a 3-3-5, but
Right.
it feels like they've got 14 defensive backs on the field. It's been that same issue for years that has posed a lot of issues for teams. You go back to the 2018 game when West Virginia goes to Ames and West Virginia's humming. They're undefeated. They're going in at, I think, number 6 in the country, and they just laid an egg offensively. They couldn't do anything. Same D coordinator, same defensive scheme. When you see that type of scheme, what challenges do you think it presents to a quarterback that's going to have to do a lot in the read game?
Well, first off, the designs, how that secondary is designed back there. It looks different. Like you said, it looks like you got 8 DBs on the field, right?
Yeah.
But the invert between the corner and how they rotate, depending on where we put our tight end, how they invert their corners and safeties and linebackers, where they put them in passing windows. We have to be very careful with that. So once again, it comes down to coaching. What are you looking at and what are you triggering your quarterback to look at once he breaks the huddle and you see where they're lined up? What are you looking at? What are your keys? That's going to be important. And that's going to be important early in the game because I really believe if we have the success we had last week early in this Iowa State game, I believe we will take care of business right around in the tune of the same exact type of game. I'll share this with you. run the football.
Yeah. I mean, you have to. I mean,
The
that is
football.
your bread and butter. You did it
Yes.
last week and it opened up everything. And you didn't even have to throw it all that much. It
No.
was what, 65 carries last week? I mean, and we joked about it in the post game. Like, it seems like a game from, back in your day with Major and AB and all those guys. But I mean, that if that's what you can do to win the game, keep doing it.
Run the football. And I believe we can. The thing is, to me, and I'll ask you this question real quick. Do you think who has the most imposing defensive line? Is it Iowa State or would it be Oklahoma State if you had to choose? If you
I,
were coaching defensive line, which defensive line would you like to coach? Oklahoma State or Iowa State?
I would say Iowa State for two reasons. One, I mean, just statistically, they're much better. Oklahoma State has been horrible against the run all year, over 200 yards a game. But secondly, I think you're going to get more physical guys and more aggressive type of players in that front seven. The only issue is with that defense, you're only playing with three down linemen. So
Yes.
you need longer, bigger bodies to hold gaps and contain. So it's I don't know. I guess if you're asking me from a scheme perspective, I'd probably say Oklahoma State because I don't really want to be a guy that's in charge of just three down linemen. But
Right. That's where I was, for me, the scheme that Oklahoma State came in with, the bodies that they had up front, them big road graders that they had up front, run stoppers. I believe they played horribly against us. Thank God. And I think part of that was because our offensive lineman said, we are going to prove a point.
yeah,
Okay. I believe my point is we're going to prove the same point Saturday night. Yeah, because the linemen now get it. Look, you're not going to be able to put this game on us and say we didn't handle our business up front. That's why we couldn't run the ball. That's why we wasn't good in pass blocking. I believe the linemen now have the attitude of from now on out, every single game, we're going to be able to punch you in the face.
dang. We should have. This is the week we should have brought the Gene's whatever it's called, the pregame fire him up speech. My goodness, he's on the roll. All right, I
I'm
love
saying
it.
that's what it is, Schuyler. They going to punch him in the mouth.
So last week, and I don't want to harp too much on the Oklahoma State game, but it is a point of reference. Last week, West Virginia had the most players featured on Pro Football Focus's Week 6 Big 12 Team of the Week. A couple of those guys were on the offensive side, or actually three of the six were on the offensive side. Jaheim White, obviously, who had a breakout game. Wyatt Milam, the the left tackle and left guard. Tomas Remak. Gene, I'm sure you've probably seen this before a time or two, but Wyatt Milam is one of the best offensive players in all of college football right now, or offensive lineman, I should say. He has yet to give up a single sack, let alone a quarterback pressure. When you
Pressure,
have a guy that is that consistent in the
yeah.
pass game, but also an absolute road grader in the run game, you can just do about anything that you want. And that's why West Virginia has been one of the most balanced offensive attacks in all of college football. They are only one of four Power Four teams, Gene, that have averaged over 215 yards through the air and on the ground. Talk about balance. That's it right there.
That's it right there. Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's almost like each week the offense and the defense is coming out and they're getting better and better and better at what they need to do to win games. So this is the perfect game to set this up where we are right now. That's why I'm so excited about it, because I really do believe we're going to have another breakout offensive performance, and I think we're going to have a really stellar defensive performance. I really believe that. We might even get in here and get a big player in the special teams this week.
Kick the ball through the end zone, for the love of God. I know everyone's probably tired of me saying this, but holy moly, man. Kick the ball through the end zone. You don't need to get cute with it. But anyways, I digress. I think the other part of what I was going to go back to here was CJ Donaldson.
Yeah.
Jaheim White had a huge game last week, which was tremendous for West Virginia's offense and just being able to get him back into form. You need him to do that. He doesn't have to go for a $159 every week, but you need him
Right.
to be able to break a few of those explosive runs at least 2 or 3 times a game. And when he does, it really just blows open this whole offense because he's a slippery tackle. He's not easy to get down onto the ground. And he's also pretty tough for as small as he is. But CJ Donaldson, to me, is going to be the key factor in this for West Virginia's offense because he's the guy that can lean on this defense. He's the guy that can really wear them down early in the game. I wouldn't be surprised, Gene, if we see early a healthy diet of CJ Donaldson getting the ball handed off to him because I feel like that's the way to get this front seven really on their heels and feeling like they're out of breath, they're tired, they're fatigued. Get them worn down early, and then when they do get tired, then that's when you can do all the east to west type of stuff with Jaheim, and they're just tired. They got hands on hips. They can't chase down that fast kid out of the backfield. So it's going to be a steady diet, I think, for CJ early, but he's got to make the most of it. Some of these games, he goes and averages 5 or 6 yards a carry. Sometimes he gets bottled up, and it just feels like he can't spurt through that first wave of defenders, and he gets tied up at the line of scrimmage. To me, he's the key of this game offensively.
No, I agree. He's your hammer. He's your hammer, and he's going to have. I think you get him started early because then you got the complexity of what they both do together, which they do very well. It's like thunder and lightning. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But you got to get him going first. And I think if we do that, I agree with you 100%. Wear down them linebackers, man. Wear down them D linemen. They don't want to be hitting 235, 240 pounds. You're
Business
gonna have to,
decisions are going to be made.
that's what you need. But you need that to be made early.
Yeah.
So it's one of them deals where as soon as you come out, like the first series, it's going to be like this all day.
Yeah.
So they have to feel that. You know what I mean? It can't just be the chirping. They have to feel it.
Yeah.
Then you hit them with lightning. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So
Yeah, I agree.
before we get into our pick'ems here, I do, since this is a kind of a special edition type of game. Obviously, you can see here on our screen we've got the Cole themed blackout. We've got our black shirts on. Want to talk about the Cole Rush for just a minute and just everything that goes along with it. So obviously, this is the first time West Virginia is going to be wearing the all black uniforms in football in the football program's history. We've seen it done on the basketball side and some other sports, but first time in football. 8 p.m. kickoff. It's a massive game, Gene. And I know we can say that every single week because technically the next big game on your schedule is the next game on your schedule. But when you go back and look at this, I had to go back and flip through a few pages of the schedule to figure out when the last time there was this meaningful of a Big 12 game that there was. And it was the 2018 game against Oklahoma, the last game of the season. Will Greer, Kyler Murray going back and forth, all going for the Heisman, or both going for the Heisman, both trying to make it to the Big 12 championship game. That was the last Big 12 meaningful game to me that I could think of. And I know that we talked about it earlier briefly about how they've been in some of these bigger stages before. What do you feel like can make this outcome much differently than what they did against Penn State and in the backyard brawl on the road? Even though there's all this hype, all this excitement about the Cole Rush, the black uniforms, big time stage, you're on primetime TV, top 12 team coming into town. How do you block all that out, but also enjoy it too at the same time?
To be honest with you, Scholar, this is a coach's dream and nightmare, both at the same
It
time.
is. It's bittersweet.
It's bittersweet because now in this era, because of social media, everything is on your phone and that is in your palm. You get to see everything. It's too much noise. I would think that coach would have to calm the noise. Calm the noise. I really don't want you guys. I know I can't tell you what to do when you're out of this building, but in this, stay off your phones. Give your phones a break, right? I don't want you reading about how great you were in this game or that game, whatever, because in your head they'll get all swelled up, and you're not focused on what we need to focus on, right? Let's keep the main thing the main thing. If he can do that and say to the team, look, as a whole, offense, defense, special teams, I want you to buy into one thing. Man, if you do your job, just focus on doing your individual job. And as a unit, we will be successful. That's when we're on offense, when we're on defense, and when we're on, in the special teams. If you do that, that's what I want you to focus on every practice. Do your job individually, and then as a unit, we will be successful. If he can do that in a game like this, you know what that does? It calms you down.
Absolutely.
All you're worried about is your job. All you're focused on is your job. And if you believe that and you do it for 4 quarters, man, you'll be surprised of how you come out the other side. And the reason why I can say that, that's what Don Nealon did back in 1988.
Yeah.
And that's how we won 11 football games. He made sure to a man, we were responsible, each player to a man, for just doing their job. And as a unit, we were successful. Offense, defense, and special teams, week in and week out.
And this is just a little bit of a sign here for how much the TV networks and so forth are starting to think about the Mountaineers. They already announced next week's game as a 7:30 kickoff against Kansas State. Gina, I don't know the last time that they've had back-to-back home night games. It's been a while. Maybe even have to go back to the Big East days. So even if they lose this game, and I know we don't want to talk about those hypotheticals, but even if that does happen, it's not the end of the world. You're still 2-1 in conference play, and you still control your destiny. Like,
Yeah.
the reality of this situation is very few teams in this league, as competitive as it is are going to go undefeated. However, you got to win the ones that are at home. If you don't do that, you're probably not going to get into the championship game in Dallas. So it starts this week against Iowa State, and the Coal Rush. It's a really cool thing. I've been excited for it. I think the uniforms look sweet. I think you guys would have looked amazing in them back in 1988. Unfortunately, it wasn't a big deal back then, the uniforms. It was just, you got your home, you got your away, let's go play ball. Now it's let's have the 15 different alternate uniforms. But hey, just let them have their fun. I don't care if you think it's a school color or not. Let them go out there, have fun. Let them look good, feel good, play good. You get the dub, no one cares, right?
That's it. That's
it.
it.
All right, let's go ahead and move into our weekly pick'ems. And we're going to gloss over the standings this week and move into our game. I'm just kidding.
No, let's not gloss over that, brother.
Yeah. I think there's a typo here. When I went to do this, I think I miscounted, so I think there's a typo because it says Gene's got a 16-9 record. I have a 13-12 record. I think that's actually flipped. But
no, it's not.
So Gene, he had a solid week last week. I, on the other hand, did not. So let's just move into this week so I don't have to talk about that anymore. I'm going to go 5-0 this week, knock on wood somewhere, wherever that's at.
Okay.
Red River rivalry, baby. It's not a Big 12 showdown anymore. It's in the SEC, unfortunately. 3:30 kickoff on ABC. Texas getting that number 1 spot back in the rankings after Alabama fell to Vanderbilt. But Texas and Oklahoma here in Dallas, 3:30 kick. I don't think this is much of a game. Texas all the way. Way too much offense for them. Oklahoma's usually pretty good offensively. Not so much this year. Hook them.
So, see, now you're talking. Now even though it's the first pick, now you're getting wising up.
Give me some time to screw it up here. At least give me a little bit of time.
So I'm with you on that. Hook 'em horns, Texas all the way.
Number 2, Ohio State at number 3, Oregon in a Big Ten game. That sounds weird to say too. 7:30 on NBC or Peacock. Ohio State's been dominant. Oregon has looked okay. They've kind of skated by in some of their games. Autzen Stadium's a very tough place to play. I feel like at some point Dylan Gabriel is going to break out and be the guy that they thought he would be. And it's not that he's played bad. They just expected this thing to really kind of be high-octane offense. I don't know if that's going to be this week. I'm going to go with the Buckeyes getting the big-time win on the road. Will Howard, he has a bigger game than Dylan Gabriel. That's a bold statement here, but I'm going with the Buckeyes with the win on the road.
Wow. See, we about to be 2 for 2 right now. I'm the same exact thing. I'm going with the Buckeyes on the road with a big win, and I think, as a matter of fact, it'll be a signature statement win for them at Oregon.
Ole Miss and LSU, this one at 7:30 on ABC. Ole Miss had a stumble a couple of weeks ago against Kentucky. They bounced back last week against South Carolina. LSU's looked okay. That's a tough place to play too in Death Valley. I just don't know that I've been bought in on this LSU team enough yet, and it feels weird for me to go with the road team again. But I love Ole Miss's offense. Jackson Dart and the receivers that they have down there, Lane Kiffin. I'm going to go with the running Rebs here to get the win down there in Death Valley.
Okay, now see, here's we go off the rails again. See, here's where you go off the rails. Here's where you do it. Listen.
See, I was trying to put my Gene hat on and think that you were going to go with the road team there, but okay.
Go off the rails again. Listen, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not an LSU fan at all. I'm not. But that's a real tough place to play at home. And you already know they have to win this football game. And usually they're up for these type of challenges, although I've seen they've been kind of up and down. I don't think it's even close to being a decent game. I really think LSU will put it together, and I think they'll put it together in a major way because they want to make a statement. And I think for them, they look at this is a statement game for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
definitely.
This is a statement game. So I'm going with LSU.
Big 12 showdown at night, 10:15. It's Kansas State and Colorado. Colorado had a big win a couple of weeks ago down in Orlando against Central Florida, 48-21. Kansas State also coming off a bye the week before they beat Oklahoma State 42-20. I have a soft spot for Kansas State. I've been a real big fan of Chris Kleiman. I think they're doing a really good job with that program. And I've always kind of been a little on the skeptical side of this Dion, era at Colorado. And I still think Colorado's got a lot to work on. Defensively, offensive line-wise, they need to find a consistent running game. But you know what, Gene? I'm going to go with prime time here, and I think the Buffs get the win. Kansas State has not looked great on the road. They had to escape Tulane earlier in the season. Tulane's a good football team, but that's a tough game for them that they barely found a way to win. And then a couple of weeks ago against BYU, that thing spun out of control. They lost 38-9. I don't know what it's going to play out. This is a coin flip, but I'll go with the home team here and go with the Buffs.
Wow. Okay, now you're back on track. Yeah, no doubt about it. I think Prime got these guys ready. I think they know what's in front of them, and I think they'll be ready to play. As a matter of fact, I don't think it'll be as close as people are going to think this game will be. I think Colorado wins. I think they win big. I think they win by at least double digits, 10 points.
Okay, bold.
And the reason why I say that, Shedeur is going to have a big night.
Interesting.
Big.
And so now for the game that we're all here for, it's West Virginia and Iowa State. Number 11, the Cyclones rolling into Morgantown for the Coal Rush. It's the first ever all-black uniform, all blacked-out stadium here in Morgantown. West Virginia, Iowa State battling for positioning at the top of the Big 12. Winner's going to have a big stake into their Big 12 positioning moving forward. Here's Neil Brown on this week's matchup.
Another big game on Saturday. It's kind of life in the Big 12. You win one, and you're on to the next one. This one's a special one just because we're wearing the Coal Rush uniforms and paying homage to the West Virginia mining industry. It's an important game for our state, and I know our guys are looking forward to wearing that and all the stuff that goes with it. Our guys aren't going to blink in these games. They're not going to blink. This is kind of just the next really good football team we play. So our guys, when we start talking about the next opponent, whether it's Iowa State or Kansas State or Arizona or whoever's after that, they're like, oh, okay, they're going to be really good. Well, just like the other teams we played, so our guys aren't going to blink, and it kind of is what it is. And we just got to get ready. We got to get healthy, and we got to get mentally and physically ready to go for Saturday night.
All right, Gene, West Virginia, Iowa State kicking off on Fox at 8 o'clock. And I've been back and forth on this one. In the preseason, I said Iowa State. A few weeks ago, I kind of changed my pick, went to West Virginia, and now we're getting a little bit closer to the game. I'm like, I just don't know, especially coming off a game when it seemed like everything went West Virginia's way. I don't know if they can back that up and handle success. That's been a big issue for this team, not just under Neil Brown, but really under a lot of recent coaches. I can't go against the Mountaineers here. It's the Coal Rush, baby. It's the all blacked out game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a crazy atmosphere. They're going to run the football, I say, for at least 150 yards. That should be enough to get it done. Garrett Green will sprinkle in a couple of explosives in the pass game. I think the defense will bend but not break as much. I think it'll be an interesting game. I'm not going to give out my score prediction. You have to go to our site to figure that one out, but I'm going West Virginia in a tight.
I thought you was going to. Man, listen. I thought I was going to come over here and save you. The way you was talking a little bit, I thought I had to go over there, Scott, and save you. You're 100% right. At home, man, are you kidding me? A blackout, man. Come on, dude.
Yeah.
Look, unlike you, I'm going to give my score prediction.
Go for it. Drop it.
All right.
Let's hear it.
Listen, our Mountaineers at home, 35-17.
Wow.
35-17.
A comfortable win. Not even in question.
Dude, a comfortable win. Defense dominates. 2 more picks, 2 more sacks, a big play on special teams. Running backs running wild in the black.
Love it.
You understand? No doubt about it. My man, listen, I call him Mr. Green. I'm sorry, that's Mr. Green to me. We'll have a big night, and we'll be, cue up Country Roads.
There you go. That will be awesome. Awesome atmosphere coming up this Saturday in Morgantown. 8:00 kickoff on Fox. Drop your predictions in the comment section here on YouTube. Hit us up on SI_WVU on X. Give us a subscription here on our YouTube page as well. But that's going to do it for us here today on the Walkthrough Game Day Show. That's Eugene Napoleon. I'm Schuyler Callihan. We'll be chatting this one up around midnight-ish on Saturday. So make sure you tune into the Mountaineer post-game show. We'll have all the action recapped for you there. And then we'll be up and at it very first thing in the morning on the Between the Ears, the morning after show on Sunday. We don't sleep, folks. It's football season. It's all day, every day until we get the signing day. So that's how it's going to roll here on West Virginia on SI. For Eugene Napoleon, I'm Schuyler Callihan. Thanks for tuning in for another edition of the Walkthrough Game Day Show. We'll see you guys here on Saturday evening.